breaking.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Inside the Newsroom. I'm Maddie Paul, and we have an important Inside the Newsroom today because we just wrapped up our election night coverage just the other night, and we're looking into some other stories that are non-election related for you to enjoy today. But of course, we need to start with what happened on election night. Once the polls closed Tuesday, KELOLAND News covered election results from here in our digital studio and also our television studio. Current South Dakota Governor Larry Roden is the resounding winner in this historic Republican gubernatorial primary runoff election, and it didn't take long to learn this result. We're bringing in Ray Yost, our digital reporter here in the digital studio to talk about this because, Ray, it was 8 minutes after 8 p.m. Central Time that the Associated Press called the race in Roden's favor, and that was just minutes after the polls closed. Did you think that would be that early?
You know, you always kind of wonder how long it's going to take before a winner is determined, and that can take well into the night. It was, as we've experienced here in the past, you know, as some of the more populous counties need to be counted and all their votes tabulated. Given our poll, the KELOLAND Emerson poll, where we had like a 60-some, 40-some split, you knew perhaps the race could get called. Or you speculated, I should say, not knew. But I'm not sure anyone expected or knew, felt like it would be called that early.
And how did your coverage of this election change that night once AP called the race?
Well, first of all, you immediately need to get out that AP called the race. I mean, that's your first reaction is, I think we had something up by probably 8:09, at least in the headline, and then you rearrange the lead or the first couple of paragraphs to reflect that the Associated Press has called the race, and then you kind of everything starts to happen very rapidly after that because within that first hour and a half, almost within a few minutes, candidate Toby Doden by 8:30 was indicating to our reporter on site that he was going to be speaking at 9, and Governor Roden indicated, shortly after that he was going to be speaking at 9:15. So my job was to start getting that information in the story as quickly as we found out those speeches were going to be made. You figure it's a concession speech from Doden, and you figure it's a victory speech of sorts from Roden. So, yeah, it just changes what you're updating and making sure you include all the recent information or the new information as quickly as possible.
Ray, in a prior chat that we had here in the digital studio just the day before, we talked about what makes this runoff interesting, especially for you. And one of the elements that you brought up was voter registration and people wanting to participate in this specific runoff. So as of this morning, I took a look at the Secretary of State's website, and just under 36% was reported for voter turnout for this runoff election. If you had to make a follow-up story based on voter turnout for this runoff, what elements would you want to look further into? What are you most curious about?
I think we need to look at the number of Republicans that were registered. What was the changes in that from, May to June to July on the Secretary of State's website, and maybe into August, because I think sometimes those registrations trail a little bit. So I'd be curious to see how many new Republicans were registered. We've heard that some people switched parties to register as a Republican for this runoff race, and then will return back to their original party. We also know that the state grows, so we have probably some new folks who moved in who registered as Republicans, so those are new voters. But I think I'd want to try to look at in that context with how many more Republicans do we have, and then put that percentage maybe in the perspective of how many registered eligible Republicans there were. And it's a little difficult maybe to compare it to like a past primary because it's new. This is the first governor's runoff. So I would try to give it some perspective or context, maybe based on some past primary elections, maybe even put it in context of some general elections, but that's really difficult because that's going to be disproportionate. But looking at some of those new voter registrations too, I think is key if you're trying to give this a little more context or dig around in it a bit.
Yeah, Ray, thank you for that perspective. And we're wrapping up on time for this segment, but are you covering any other election related stories for Wednesday?
Well, what I'm looking at today is to talk to an Emerson College representative to talk about the poll, which was, if you could look at the undecided voters, some of the a margin of error there around 4-ish percent. The poll was was super accurate, and it's even more accurate in light of the election results.
Absolutely. Well, Ray, thank you so much for being here at the digital studio and giving more perspective on this historic runoff election and its results. But the South Dakota governor's race is far from over. Coming up, we're hearing reaction from the Democratic candidate on the November ballot when we come back after the break. You're watching Inside the Newsroom. Stay with us. And welcome back to Inside the Newsroom. Larry Roden will face Democratic candidate Dan Allers in the November general election. On election night, Allers was here in the digital studio and spoke about Tuesday's historic runoff election and the future of South Dakota. Before we heard Toby Doden concede, and then you and I were just in here in our digital studio listening to Larry Roden give a first speech for the night as AP had called the race in his favor. And we're still waiting for those votes to come in, but it's pretty fair to say that I think you're running against Larry Roden when it comes to the general election. How are you feeling in this moment?
I want to first say congratulations to Larry. We served together in the legislature. I look forward to seeing him out on the campaign trail and sharing our different visions for South Dakota. I think no matter who won tonight, the reality is that it's been the one-party machine running the state of South Dakota for the last 50 years. And if you're looking at the affordability of healthcare, the access to it, what's happening with education in our schools, and just things like our roads and our other infrastructure, they're not getting any better. So it's time for more than just a change in personalities, it's a change in priorities. And as a Democratic candidate, I bring a different perspective, one that listens to the people and really works to find collaboration and common ground. That's something we haven't had in state government for a long time. I know a lot of folks like Governor Roden have talked about being bipartisan, but if you've never worked in the minority, you don't know what bipartisanship is. I've actually had to work across party lines to get things accomplished for my constituents. I think it's a valuable tool. I think it's something that we need more of in South Dakota politics, and having a Democratic governor who's willing to work with everyone, regardless whether you're a Republican, Independent, or Democrat, I think is a valuable thing.
You've been waiting for months now to see who your Republican opponent would be. Now, as you watch this race and its historic runoff election, what does that tell you about the political landscape of South Dakota?
The people of South Dakota are looking for something different. You hear it. People aren't satisfied with the status quo. I think that's why you saw a runoff. I mean, you had 4 different Republican candidates. No one was really tapping into the frustration that was out there. We're still having low voter turnout, which is a problem. I think people need to feel like their voices are being heard. And so while they've been duking it out, I've been traveling around the state, meeting with voters, going to all kinds of nonpartisan events, really focused on listening to people from across the spectrum, what they're concerned about. And where, you find that our values aren't different. People go, well, you're a Democrat and I'm a Republican. We won't agree on much. And that's simply not true. I don't know a single person that says, I want bad health care. I want poor education. I want potholes in my roads. Nobody's saying that. I want high property taxes. Nobody's saying that. But they're looking for someone who will offer real solutions and that will listen to them.
Thank you for bringing up your campaign, too, and the work that you've been doing as this Republican governor's race has been going on, because I feel like most of the talk for the 2026 governor's race at this point has been who will be the Republican nominee. It's kind of been the dialogue with this entire race at this point. How does this influence your campaign when all of South Dakota has just been talking about a Republican nominee?
Well, now it's time to ramp it up, right? It's time to get your message out there. We're going to continue to travel across the state. I believe we've been in 55 of the 66 counties already, and we're going to do more of that. I believe in going out to the voters. I served a very Republican district in District 25. I knocked doors. I'll be doing that again. I mean, when was the last time a gubernatorial candidate stopped by your farm or knocked on your door? That's what I do. That's what I believe that is needed in order to hear what the people of South Dakota really want, and for them to feel like they have access to their leaders. I think there's a separation now people feel from the folks elected in office. And when you've seen what has happened over the last few years, even with ballot measures where the people have spoken, our elected officials try to undo that work. So I think it's really important and I will continue to do that, to get out there and visit with those folks and make sure they feel heard.
Speaking of those folks and those voters who are out there, one thing that we've been talking a lot about with KELOLAND News is voter fatigue at this point. It may look different with the general election now that it's not month after month of Republican voters going to the polls. But again, we've been reporting on voters changing their party affiliation at this point just to vote in this runoff election. How does that influence your thoughts on voter turnout for the general election?
I think for me, it doesn't really change anything. I want to get out there and visit with everyone. So it doesn't matter. I want people to get excited, to feel like there's an opportunity for something different and less of the same old, same old. So it really doesn't change what I'm going to do. I'm going to get out there and visit with the voters. And hopefully when they're done visiting with me, they're excited and they want to go out and vote. And we got, I think, 98 days and we'll be there. And then it'll be a new session, hopefully new leadership, and we can move South Dakota in a positive direction.
You're talking about voters, Republican voters, who may feel like they can't align with a Republican nominee at this point, even though we know Larry Roden is going to advance for the general election. Looking at voters who are changing their party affiliation, why do you think now more than ever voters in South Dakota should pay attention to this governor's race?
Because we have some serious problems in this state. When you talk about just access to health care, it's not just in our rural areas anymore where we're losing services. We're seeing that in our biggest cities, Rapid City and Sioux Falls. I've experienced it personally with myself, with my family members, my father, who had just moved back to South Dakota. These are real issues and real problems, and folks are frustrated. We need to start finding solutions to problems. We've heard about the property tax issue. Both of the Republican candidates have talked about their solutions. One is getting rid of property taxes. We know that's not realistic. If you want your firefighter to show up when your house is on fire, if you want an ambulance to show up when you're having a heart attack, you have to pay those property taxes. But we can also talk about property tax equity and how we assess properties. But we need to be working together, and we need to be working with our local governments to make that happen. When you look at the other side, what was passed in this last session, it shifts it from one tax to another. We've heard that over and over, and that's exactly what it does. That sales tax is more burdensome for those on lower incomes. So we need to be cognizant of that. It also is very detrimental to our rural communities. When you think about McPherson County, if you were to move to a sales tax, people in McPherson County are shopping in Aberdeen. And they maybe don't even have a store to go to in their hometown to buy the products that they want. So they lose out on a tax shift like that. So we need real solutions, and we need people that are willing to sit down and do the hard work to make it happen.
Thank you for offering that perspective. Do you feel prepared to run a campaign against Larry Roden?
Absolutely. I think that this is about a campaign about ideas. It's a campaign about getting out there and visiting with the people of South Dakota. I'm prepared to do that. I love to do that. I'm excited about it. And I'm ready to take the stage and debate Larry Roden. I'm ready to go. So when they're ready, I've already signed up and said I'm going to do a couple of them. So hopefully they show up too. And we can have a real debate and get serious about what the future of South Dakota might look like.
Well, KELOLAND News may give you a call at that point then. And then as you prepare for your preparation and participation in the general election, what kind of message would you give to voters as they prepare themselves for the upcoming general election?
I asked them to give me a call. My number's on my website. I really want people to reach out and get to know me. I want folks to ask the tough questions. And I believe that when we do that, people will see that there is one clear choice for the future of South Dakota, and that I'm ready to step up and serve. And it would be my honor to to be the next governor of South Dakota.
Do you have any messages that you'd like to give to either Roden or Doden based on tonight's results?
No, once again, I want to congratulate Larry for running. Thank Toby Doden for stepping up and running. It's a lot to put yourself out there. It's not an easy thing to do, so it's a very admirable thing to run for office. And I look forward to seeing Larry on the campaign trail. I hope that we can keep it a little cleaner than what we've seen over the last few months. I think we need to focus on positivity. We need to focus on solutions, and show folks that there is a better path to prosperity, that there is good things that can be accomplished from positivity and working together.
Is there anything else you'd like our viewers to know?
Oh, like I said, give me a call. I'm out there. Check out my website. Go to my social media. I'd love to visit with you and answer your questions.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you, guys.
The general election takes place on November 3rd of 2026. Another guest we brought to the digital studio on election night was retired USD political science professor Michael Card. He gave voters some guidance as they look towards the November general election.
And I just hope we remember that we should thank these candidates, and we should have enough respect for whoever the final two candidates are for governor, and all of our state legislative, county commissioner candidates, and the like, and see what they have to say. What are they going to do for us? What are they going to do that's really going to improve the state of South Dakota?
Card also says the traditional campaign start date for the November general election is September 1st. Now, you can always check on more election-related news and resources on KELOLAND.com under the Your Local Election Headquarters tab. And you can find the full Card interview on demand on KELOLAND Plus or YouTube. And still to come on Inside the Newsroom, we're switching topics. We're heading away from elections and moving towards that go space. Find out what I mean when we come back after a quick break. And welcome back to Inside the Newsroom. A popular board game is getting a Sioux Falls twist. Kristen Haskell tells us how you can help design it.
Falls Park and many other landmarks in Sioux Falls will soon be a part of a widely known game, Monopoly.
It was something that we could get together on Friday nights for game nights with my brothers, my mom and dad, and it created those family memories for us. So to be able to welcome them to Sioux Falls and to hear from the community of what matters the most to you and what you want to see in this next Monopoly game.
Top Trumps USA aims to include Sioux Falls businesses and nonprofits to be pieces of the Monopoly board to highlight the community.
We do, a handful of editions of each year, and we just thought it would be honestly a great place to come, a city where everyone loves it. A lot of people who grew up here and live here, now as well. So it was just kind of the perfect city, perfect size.
Members of the Sioux Falls community are encouraged to send in suggestions for what they want to see on the board.
We really do want the recommendations from the community because we like to make it things, you guys are proud of, and so do send in your suggestions to Sioux Falls.
Experienced Sioux Falls CEO Terry Schmidt is confident Sioux Falls residents will be thrilled to have a game that represents their home.
We're honored. Thank you for choosing Sioux Falls for the South Dakota game, and I can promise you that there's going to be a lot of excitement, a lot of people wanting to grab one of these games and play.
The board is expected to debut by next spring.
And Kristen Haskell joins us at the digital studio now to talk more about this. Kristen, how can viewers submit ideas for what should be on the Sioux Falls Monopoly board?
Yeah, so they either have an email that you can go to or a form on their Top Trump USA website where it'll say Sioux Falls Edition, and you can fill out what landmarks, businesses, and even nonprofit organizations that you want to see on the board.
I love that it's a big group of different ideas that people can submit. Now, while you were out at Falls Park on Tuesday, what was the atmosphere like when you were there? Like, what kind of vibe was there, and how did that vibe kind of make its way into the story?
Honestly, everyone was super excited. I could tell that this is a project that just a wholesome thing that we're bringing to Sioux Falls, and that can really highlight the town, especially with the community being able to pick what they want to see on the board and not just being like, here's your edition, go at it, stuff like that. So being able to involve the community in this and just being able to share it and seeing something that we can be proud of and see our town represented, I think is something that's really exciting. And even the mayor, Christine Erickson, and Terry Schmidt with Experience Sioux Falls. Everyone's just super excited to see this coming to Sioux Falls.
They picked a great location to do this at Falls Park, and I love that they had all the Monopoly signs and like the dice there too. When you were out there, what do you think was one of the most important visuals or sounds to capture in this story? And then how did you capture it?
I think one of the things that they did that I really wanted to capture is specifically Christine Erickson and the Monopoly Man rolling the dice together, kind of rolling in to the fact that this is coming to Sioux Falls and just getting everyone excited about this opportunity to be able to submit your ideas. And I think that was important to capture, just coming together and seeing this project coming to life in a couple of months. So,
is there anything else that you'd like viewers to know?
Just get your submissions in, especially if you want to see something specific on the board. I think Falls Park is going to be an obvious one that we're going to be having on there, but anything that you think represents Sioux Falls and you think is important to have, please send your submissions in.
Yeah, I'm going to have to think about this one as we go into commercial break now for Inside the Newsroom. Thanks for joining, Kristen, and we'll be right back. And welcome back to Inside the Newsroom. Wrapping up on a bit of a quick segment. Hi, Scott Munt.
Quick.
I know, this is...
Quick.
Can
The
you
two
imagine?
of us cannot be quick.
Quick, short, easy. I have a question for you. I don't know if, was this a talkable for the morning show? If you had to put a Sioux Falls landmark on the Monopoly board, what would you want?
My goodness.
What would you put in?
We were trying to figure that out, I think, even during the show and commercial break.
Well,
there's so many things to choose from.
Sioux
And where do they
Falls.
go?
And it has to be Sioux Falls, too.
And where would they go on the Monopoly board?
Ooh,
so what
true.
would be Boardwalk? Boardwalk's the prime property in Monopoly.
Yes.
That Phillips Avenue?
Oh, I think that works. I want to see
Falls Park.
I want to see the Japanese gardens at Terrace Park.
Again, there's a lot to choose from.
That's what I want to see. And
So what do you do with the railroads in Monopoly?
do you think Smithfield will be in it?
Could be.
That would be kind of fun, just to see all those big landmarks and things like that. Downtown
KELOLAND
Sioux Falls,
television. Boy, that
Hey,
that
did you
got
just
you excited?
Did you just get the golden star of the day just for saying that? Honestly, that'd be kind of fun to see on there. Do you think they would have our faces on that? No.
Probably not mine.
No.
You? Yeah, I could see that. Mine? No.
What would the game pieces be?
What would Doppler radar?
Doppler radar. Well, it can't be just color related.
I
It's
don't.
Sioux Falls.
Let's see. Well, got
It's
me
Sioux
going.
Falls. It could be like the stone, the quartzite. Is it quartzite that we have?
At
Like
Falls Park.
Yeah. That could be one of the little play pieces. Can you imagine
Now,
that?
could the statue
Just
of
stone.
David be a play piece?
Oh, the Arc of Dreams. That's another one.
That's another one. Mhm.
Another play piece. Okay, I just wanted to have a fun little segment with
Oh,
you.
we're
as we
done.
wrap. Yeah, we're
All right,
done,
we're done.
actually. Remember how I said it's going to be short, quick, and sweet?
Oh,
That's
yeah.
what we have. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for watching Inside the Newsroom today. Hey, watch Whether or Not on demand on KELOLAND Plus now with Scott Munt and meteorologist Brian Karstens. And until next time, have a great day, everyone. Do it, Scott.
All right,
Do
wait.
it.